Hello there, folks. I'm the Lon Jenny Reviewer, and welcome to Silent Film Saturday, number 9, Sherlock Jr., starring Buster Keaton and directed by, well, that's a debatable one, and I'll explain that later. Let's look at this package. Okay, so what I'm talking about today is the Sherlock Jr. 3 Ages Blu-ray, but I'm not talking about 3 Ages, so disregard this bottom portion. Yeah, that's it. And I like this. This is actually a slipcase. And yeah, it's just got a picture of Buster Keaton in those two films. So let's turn this package around. Okay, so here's the back of the package. The running times of each film. I'm only going to talk about special features for Sherlock Jr., not for 3 Ages. You have music by the Mont Alto Orchestra, or the Clubfoot Orchestra, or a jazz score by Jay Ward. You have a commentary by David Callett, who's done commentaries on the original Godzilla from the Criterion Collection. He's done the Phantomas commentary. He's done some commentaries, which is really cool. Documentary on the making of the film, and a visual essay on the film's locations. Okay, so the plot of this film goes like this. Buster Keaton is a movie theater projectionist who is trying to get something nice for his girlfriend, but it doesn't work out the way he should have. He gets blamed for something he really didn't do, and he knows who did it, and he has an obsession with being a detective. I think this film is one of Buster Keaton's finest movies. It's only 45 minutes long, which means you could either see this as a very short feature or an incredibly long short. You know, people would say, oh, it's not an hour long, but it was originally intended to be an hour long, but because the preview responses were negative at certain things, Buster had to take some stuff out. And he trusted the preview audiences very much. What gags do I like in this film? Well, the thing with this film is that this is a non-stop gag machine. Like, this was a film that was just engineered for gags with Buster Keaton's Stoneface character. For example, when Buster is following his culprit, that's a very amusing sequence. You know, when he's going forward, backwards, you know, does all these really funny things, and he keeps the straightest face ever. Another gag I really enjoy is the Dollar Gag, where Buster, also has to clean up the trash in the theater, so he finds like $3 on the ground, and few people are looking for dollars that they lost. And there are just some really funny moments because you feel so bad that Buster was going to use the money to get something for his girlfriend, but instead he's just like, you know what, I have to give it to these people. I can't be a jerk. And that's why we like Buster, because Buster's not a jerk entirely. He's a fairly honest guy, but he is depressed that he couldn't just have that money and leave, but he had to give it back because he has a conscience. There is another scene. Yes, the motorcycle chase scene is rather amusing. Now, one of the most famous parts about this film is the fact that Buster has a dream sequence where he goes inside of a movie theater screen and becomes Sherlock Jr., the world's greatest detective. And all the characters that are within the movie Sherlock Jr. become the characters that are within Buster's own life situation. And they solve the mystery. Which is really cool, and there's some really inventive gags, like the motorcycle chase gag, where the entire thing was actually filmed backwards. And it's still quite impressive. And there's some miniatures used. Some of them look like miniatures, some of them don't. For the overall effect, it kind of works, especially since Buster is doing the stunts here, my friends. And he also did the stunt for the one guy who fell off the motorcycle at the beginning of the scene, which is also quite impressive. Another gag that's really funny in the film, when Buster is trying to knock the, play pool. And there's a certain ball that's an explosive, but somehow, in some way, he gets the ball, like, everywhere around the the cue ball. So it just really, and that must have been a really hard scene to do, and he took take after take after take after take after take because he wanted it to be perfect, and he was a perfectionist. Was it with the dream sequence? It's really cool because it's double exposure. So you see Buster leaving his body, and it's a quite believable effect, in my opinion. It works out rather well, and he jumps into the screen quite literally, which is really cool, in my opinion. And another really cool gag is where Buster disguises himself as an old lady, and he literally jumps through this hole to get into the old lady costume, and it really did work out like that, which really surprises me because that would seem like a very difficult gag to get perfectly, especially correct on the first time. Of course, the best performer in this film is Buster Keaton. Himself, he is the most developed character, the most interesting, and the character you sympathize with the most in this film. As for the rest of the supporting cast, I have to say the only two really characters of note are the butler and the main rival for Buster, that appear in real life in like the dream sequence. I think they're okay, but the other characters I really find are quite forgettable. I think Buster Keaton's dad plays one of the characters. I'm not saying he's terrible or anything, it's just he's not a very memorable character, and that's always been my one criticism of the films of Keaton, is that, yes, you have this, stone-faced character who is pretty, selfless and all that, but other than him, there are no compelling characters within this film. There are no other characters within the film that I really care about, and I just really could care less about the other characters. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a great, great movie and one of my favorite silent comedies. Now, there's a thing with this film that there's always been this rumor that Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, Buster Keaton's longtime friend and, sort of introduced him to the world of movies, it was said that people have said he directed this film. Some people, like Arbuckle's wife, said he directed the entire film. Other people say he was not there at all. Some people say he directed certain sequences. I think it's possible that he could have directed certain sequences because of some stuff in his previous films, but this is entirely speculative, and that's why this film only has Buster Keaton credited as the director. Now, there are other things where Arbuckle was becoming a real nuisance on the set because he was a perfectionist, and he made Catherine Maguire, the leading lady, break down to tears, which was tragic because Buster Keaton had such a lax, loose set usually when he was making one of his films. So he tried to get Arbuckle to another position where he would make more money and be a much more prestigious production, but that didn't happen until a few years later. At the end of the day, we don't know definitively if Arbuckle directed the entire film, but it is entirely possible that he directed certain sequences. One of the other things I like to talk about with this film is that Mr. David Callett does the commentary for this film, and he talks about the gross of this film. Now, this film, I don't remember the exact number, but this film apparently didn't do very well according to some statistics. It was meh received at best, got mixed reviews, but today it's considered a classic. Box office results for Buster Keaton's films vary because sometimes it would seem like Buster Keaton would keep certain numbers away from the public, but at the same time, if you look at MGM's records, certain numbers are different because of the domestic gross or the foreign gross. It would be very different every time, and it's a very hard thing to figure out, how much did the films make. Or how, because some records are only showing the international number, other records are just showing the domestic number. So learning about that was quite interesting too. Oh, Tom Murray from The Gold Rush can be seen in this movie. He's not credited on IMDb, but I'm pretty sure it's him. He's in the dollar sequence that I was talking about earlier. And that's definitely has to be him because the beard and just the facial expressions and everything. Buster Keaton liked to parody certain films, and there was a film of Douglas Fairbanks that he parodies in one scene. Not one of his swashbuckler films, but there's like a door that is heavily locked, and he parodies that Douglas Fairbanks scene with the heavily locked door. It moves very well. It's a very well-paced film. Buster Keaton's obviously a great performer, and you could say great director of sequences, because we don't know if he or Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle directed the entirety of this production. You have John Bankston's Silent Echoes, which those books are really cool. Silent Echoes, Silent Traces, Silent Voices. I don't know. It's for each one of the 3 silent clowns, and it shows like the filming locations that they used. I only have Silent Traces, but I'm sure Silent Echoes is just as good, if not better, knowing John Bankston and his work. The documentary that's supplied really gives you better context into the whole Arbuckle situation and how Buster Keaton did some stuff in the film. Now, one scene, if you want to take note of, Buster does broke a vertebrae in his neck, I think, in the water tower sequence in the film after he shadows his rival. And yeah, this is one of those films where he could have been killed, like like a few of his films, but he was not, obviously. At the end of the day, this film is a very funny, very clever short film. The gags are sweet, they're hilarious, they're jaw-dropping, they're everything you would hope for in a Buster Keaton film in less than an hour. And yeah, it's perfect the way it is. This could be one of the best films I've reviewed so far out of this first cycle of films I've been reviewing, because it's just such a well-made film. Yeah, the characters could be better, but with Buster Keaton, the gags and the visuals, and perfect use of title cards as well. I mean, when in the dollar sequence, when one lady says like, "I need my dollar," and Buster Keaton looks in his pocket and he's just like, "Describe it." And it's just a perfect use of title card. He and Chaplin and people like FW Murnau knew where to put their title cards. They knew that they didn't need a whole plethora of them just to tell a story, because the stories were very image-driven. So, hope you guys check this one out. Next week, I will be reviewing Tell It to the Marines. That will be episode number 10. See you guys later. Hey there, folks. I just want to take a brief minute to let you know that you can go to my blog. I have the link below on blogspot.com. Silent Film Saturday Written Reviews. I have a Facebook page, a Twitter account, and that's about it. They're all down in the description box below. And yeah, that's about it. Also, guys, I just want to say I apologize for not posting a lot of stuff on Facebook this week. I had a lot of college work and all that sort of stuff. Year's winding down. I have this week for finals, and I have another final the week after next week. So yeah, it's winding down, so I'll probably have more time to do these things and probably post more videos than I usually do. Thank you guys for all the support. Share the page with friends, family members, whatever you want to do. People who like movies or silent movies. And I'll see you next week with Tell It to the Marines. Thank you guys.